with that, I'm dirty at you, DC. I'm dirty at you, bro, because the doctor took a photo in the back med bag. I was like, just got to show Dana just so that they know what happened. Shows DC. DC puts it everywhere.
Okay? DC.
It puts it everywhere. I am dirty, bro. And why you have to do me like that, right?
Well, Daniel, what did you do?
Well, he's a beautiful man, so I figured I would make him look ugly. At some point, I have to try something. We don't get to look like Robert Whittaker, man.
All right, I don't know what he's referencing. I'm assuming, is it a teeth video? Oh my gosh, I do know. He's talking about when you held up your phone that had the picture of, okay, of course, I did see that. Did you get in trouble for that? I mean, that was a text message. Was that supposed to be part of the show?
No.
You know, speaking of Robert Whittaker, though, he is a very handsome guy, and you want to know what else? He's charming. But he doesn't bring that to fight promotion.
He's charming. He can fight. At some point, we got to, like, take him down a notch. I mean, man, come on, Chael. We got to cut him down a little bit.
But I'm only bringing this perspective like Daniel. He won't say those things about himself. Like, he doesn't believe in that. He's a real sportsman. I feel like if as charismatic and handsome and as popular as he is, that guy is a guaranteed lock for the Hall of Fame. We got a few of them still competing, but he is at the top of the list. I wish he gave us more of that. I found that rather compelling, frankly.
He's one of my favorite people. I think he's awesome. And it honestly, it really did. I do apologize. Maybe I shouldn't have said to Chael because I showed it. But what I will say is this. It made people understand why he tapped as quickly as he did. Because everybody was like, well, what did he do? What happened? And then when you saw that, it was like, okay, now we know this dude was really, really hurt. Yeah, so hats off to Rob. He's the man. I apologize, Rob, if I let you down. But yeah, not good, my brother. But again, I'm just trying to knock you down a peg. I mean, he looks good in a suit. He looks good in a sweatsuit. I mean, the guy can do it all.
Yeah, no, it's true. I appreciate, from a viewer standpoint, when you held up that video, I appreciate it because nobody wants to be in the quick tap club, but I knew he wasn't. I knew something had happened. Guys have swallowed their tongue before. Guys' mouthpiece has gotten misplaced. In this case, it broke all his teeth and we're pulling back. You're not getting up. You're not fighting with a broken jaw. For heaven's sake, Superman wouldn't fight with a broken jaw. I actually thought your visual was very helpful in telling that story.
See, there we go, my man. All right, guys, welcome to a brand new episode of Good Guy, Bad Guy. I'm Daniel Cormier. That is the bad guy, Chael Sonnen. Chael P, I got to say something. You don't wear short sleeve shirts often, but maybe you should. Your arms look fantastic right now. What in the hell did you do? You did push-ups right before the show?
That's called vitamin S, Daniel. Vitamin S for guys that don't like coming in second, if you know what I'm saying.
Oh, my God. You're insane, dude.
Ask a question, receive an answer. But I do appreciate that. I do appreciate that. And you know what? I don't know if I can wear it outside, man. Oregon is cold all of a sudden. I was at the park with my kids yesterday. I came home because it was so late. It was bedtime. I thought it was about 9 o'clock because it was pitch black. We could not even see the ball. Daniel, it was 4:30 in the afternoon. That's the one thing about Oregon, man. This is my favorite state in the whole union. But, boy, we got to put up with a couple months where it gets dark early.
I like it. I actually like this season of the year where you get, because you know what it tells me? It's wrestling season, right? Anytime I would drive to AK with my son for 6 p.m. practice at 5:30, it was dark. It was wrestling season. This dude was going to work. So for me, that early day tells me that it's time for wrestling. And the Gilroy Mustangs, the Fighting Mustangs of Gilroy, first competition this weekend, Chael. I'm not going to be there because I'll be in Las Vegas for UFC 310. Kai Asakura will challenge Alexandre Pantoja for the UFC Flyweight Championship, Chael. You start thinking about this fight card, and I've gotten this. Well, is this a good fight card? I'm like, it's a great fight card because it's deep. Let me tell you how deep this fight card is. Chris Weidman is on the early prelims against Eric Anders. Michael Chiesa is on the early prelims. These are fights, Chael. Chiesa is fighting against Max Griffin on the early prelims, guys that are guaranteed to give you fun fights barely get on the prelim card. Evloya versus Sterling, a world champion versus an undefeated prospect, is on the prelims. That's how good this card is. So we started thinking, let's rank. Because, dude, lists do really good. Lists always do good.
Sure.
I want to know your top 3 cards from the upcoming weekend. What are you looking most forward to from UFC 310?
Okay, out of these fights, first off, one of the great stories that will never be told, but it is Ian Garry versus Rakhmonov. Listen, there was once upon a time called a guy called Pat Cummins, and he had a workout with somebody called Daniel Cormier. And Pat Cummins broke the cardinal rule, which is he revealed what happened in a practice room outside the practice room. He got a contract and an ass whipping for doing it. You are not allowed to do that. Rakhmonov and Ian Garry are teammates. They know who's going to win this fight. Not only do they have a good idea of who the man is when they're together, the UFC adds 70% in the form of 2 more rounds to it, and they both signed off without hesitation. It's not a title fight. It's not said to be a title eliminator, even though that's likely what it is. It's not even a main event. And it's one of the great stories, but both of these guys do adhere to the code of what happened in the practice room stays there. I wish they didn't. I'd like to hear a little bit about it. Ian Garry has left that gym. He's got a little bit of a mindset, which is, yes, Rakhmonov was better at that time, but Rakhmonov is the same guy, theory being he's doing the same thing with the same people. I have left. I have evolved. I am better. And it is the gains that I have made is going to let me overcome my former teammate. That is an amazing story that's not going to be told. And Daniel, Dana White has never promoted a fight with somebody's, must go. I mean, that works in everything. Football, basketball, baseball, you got 2 undefeated teams. Somebody's, must go. Dana didn't avoid doing that his whole career because it's corny. He avoided his whole career because he's never been given the opportunity. This sport is so hard. We've never had 2 meaningful guys with a meaningful amount of fights that are both completely undefeated. That's another part of this story that will never be told. So I'm going to put that in there. I'm going to go with our main event, and I'm going to tell you right now.
I got to follow that up, please. Okay, I have to follow because that's a great point. Ian Garry left the team and now. But do you remember, not very long ago, Ian Garry was getting this reputation of a guy that was going into gyms, leaving gyms, taking what he could from them. Remember Leon Edwards, they said they put him out of his gym because they didn't want him. Do you think that when this fight was offered, both of them were like, yeah, sure? Or this is more Ian Garry going, this is my shortcut to the championship. I like Ian Garry. I think he's a phenomenal fighter. I kind of like his personality. I know he rubs some people wrong, but I think that this almost plays into that idea, Chael, that Ian Garry is a bit of a disruptor in these gyms because he's in there for himself to improve. And if he has to take something from there and go somewhere else, that's what he does. Because again, he's been in Ireland. He has been to Killcliff. He has been to Leon's gym. And now he seems to have set up his own spot in Brazil. Does that play into that?
Yeah, I think it does. By the way, I spoke to his coach, his current coach, Damian Maia. And Damian Maia, I've got a loose relationship with him. He was a competitor of mine. We were in the division at the same time. But when we do communicate, no matter how small that's been over the last decade, Daniel, he is always straight with me. Sometimes it will be a sentence or two, but you can take that sentence or two to the bank. He is vouching. He is personally vouching for the ground skills of Ian Garry, which, by the way, Ian did put on display. I mean, it was the groundwork that won him his fight over MVP. And whether MVP is like a known grappler or not, he can take care of himself. And I think that it is relevant. Rakhmonov's going to get his hands on him, and Rakhmonov is going to get him down. Gary's not likely to submit. However, he is likely to attempt to sweep or reverse. He is likely to attempt or try to get back to his feet. Those are the 2 things that Damian Maia did so well that a lot of people in the division never really identified. They were so happy, jiu-jitsu as a community, so happy to have one of their own and a purist getting their hand raised. They never really identified correctly that Damian Maia did it all from the top. He just got there with a sweep, or he would stand back up. He didn't lay on his back and play a lot of guard, even rubber guard. And I only bring that to you because if you're working with a kickboxer and you can add, just get back to your feet so you're back to kickboxing, I don't know that Garry could have gone to a better ground coach than Damian Maia.
It's a great place for him. It's a great place for Ian Garry. Dude, but you're right. Like the stories, that things that happen in the gym, stay in the gym. But I'm seeing videos of these dudes sparring now, like all kinds of stuff is coming out. It seems like the world of mixed martial arts is changing. Hell, I'm showing pictures that I'm getting privately. I mean, people are freaking showing videos of guys sparring. We're in a different world. Chael, But back to your list. Start at number 3. What is the third one that you want to see all the way building to number 1?
I want to go with the main event, and I largely want to go there for
as
one
third?
reason.
As third?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. Pantoja does not get his credit for this one thing, his ability to scramble. He is bringing a gas tank, a Dan Gable-esque, a Gene Mills-esque gas tank that is an absolute weapon.
I love Gene Mills. Oh, you just said one of my favorite names in the world. Oh, my God. Gene Mills is one of my heroes. Oh, my God, Chael. I teach my kids, because you know how Gene Mills, he gets the half, and you turn the half, and you drop your hip right on their head, and you hurt them, and you beat them. Chael, I love Gene Mills. Gene Mills came to the Bay Area for a clinic a year and a half ago in a place called Fremont, California. I went as a spectator. Daniel Cormier walks into a high school gym and sits as a spectator because I want to know how Gene Mills pins people. Dude, he's the man. Don't say Gene Mills. Don't say Gene Mills or you're going to lose me. Don't.
I love that you backed me up on that because when I went down a Gene Mills rabbit hole, I have never seen a pace in sport so high. He had the pace that we've heard Dan Gable had. Gene Mills wore out Bela Glazov in a freestyle match and beat him a sophomore in college without even wrestling a freestyle. He just had that kind of pace. And I'm bringing to you that Pantoja does the same thing. If you want to get the jump on Pantoja, before you're going to worry about how you're going to punch him or kick him or try to find a guillotine, you've got to have this pace. He always ends up on top. He's open to a scramble. I will even put him in the scrambling department ahead of Demetrius Johnson. Whoa. I just want you to understand this Asakura that people do not know about. This guy is not meant to be played with. He is not just filling in a spot. This is the true and rightful number 1 contender. Has he had enough experience? Can he go in the main event? Things in the octagon are different. I get all of those concepts, but that storyline going in, I feel again, unless you and I tell it, is going to be missed. And you want to know what my other one is? Aljo. I don't agree with Aljo's card placement. If you are a world champion and you change weight classes, historically speaking, you have to win one fight to then get into a title picture and a minimum that talks. He's already won that fight. In fact, it was a glorious fight.
Right? Didn't he win 2? No,
he's won 2. He was on UFC 300 to start with. That was his first time with Cater, but I'm sharing for you. He's had to do 2. Now he's going 3. Oh. He's going undercard. I don't know if there's something behind the scenes or that's a feature match or there's something about it that I'm missing, but I don't accept that. At 145 pounds, I think we're looking at potentially a number 1 contenders match. And if we're not, I like a real good explanation as to why not.
Yep. And what's your number 1?
Well, that was it. My number 1 is the Ian Gary Machado. For me, I started with my number 1, but it is because somebody's must go. Daniel, it is because we as a community have wanted to see these guys get together. And Dana and the matchmakers are kind of going, look, I got 2 guys that can fight for titles. I got 2 guys with unblemished records. I can't have them cancel each other out because of the paradox we ended up in. Leon being under the weather, just for example, rather Belal Muhammad being under the weather by example. All of a sudden, it created this big opportunity, but it's not necessarily an opportunity for the fighters. It's an opportunity for us, the fans. Thank goodness they made this 5 rounds. Thank goodness it's getting the attention it deserves. But you're not going to get Rakhmonov. I mean, Rakhmonov's going to be the last guy to party sitting in the corner with a lampshade on his head, right? He's just not like, he's the last guy you can count on for something interesting. But the guy is 19-0 with all finishes. That sounds like folklore, Daniel. That sounds like something people used to lie about their record. This guy actually did it in modern times, man. Rakhmonov, he deserves to get his due. If he can finish Ian Gary, come on. We're having a whole nother conversation come Monday.
Hey, did you see this man the other day talk about eating horse meat? They asked this man Rakhmonov, what's his favorite animal? He said horse. They asked this man, what's his favorite animal? He said horse. They showed him riding the horse. He loves horses. They asked him what's his favorite meat, man. He said horse, Chael. So the interview asked him, you find it crazy that it's your favorite animal, but it's also the thing you love to eat the most? This guy, Rakhmonov, he's crazy, dude. He said horse was his favorite animal, and horse was his favorite thing in the world to eat. So yeah, to me, that's interesting, Chael. I love that. All right, for number 3, for me. Dude, the Korean Superboy Doo-Hoo Choi is opening the pay-per-view against Nate Landwehr, Chael. Wow. That is going to be crazy. I remember watching David Onama and Nate Landwehr, I believe, fight in San Diego a couple years ago. It was insane to watch because Nate Landwehr just does not care. He wants to fight. He's going to get in your face, and he's going to make you fight a fun fight. And we all remember Dooho Choi fighting Cub Swanson. You know that the Korean Superboy can fight any type of fight that you need him to fight, but most times it's going to be a fun, exciting fight where he's trying to take his opponent's head off. I believe that fight is going to be sick. At number 2, look, I love the main event, and I'm not leaving the main event out because of I don't think it should be on the list. I'm leaving it out because I believe that you did all the justice in the world and tells why it should be the main event. But I got to give a little love to Ciryl Gane versus Alexander Volkov, because watching Ciryl Gane fight after getting beat in the way that he did against John Jones, you start to wonder, well, what happened exactly, right? This wasn't the guy that we're used to seeing inside the octagon. He goes out there, he puts on a masterful performance, gets a finish, and he's back. It's back to the Ciryl Gane that we remember. Volkov, I don't know what happened to Volkov, Chael. He's 6'11", I think, or 6'7". Last time he's fighting against Sergey Pavlovich, who had been a destroyer of men, knocking everybody out. He's beating him up in the middle of Saudi Arabia. Corner, Chael. Coach walks up to him, hands him water with one hand, a comb with the other. This dude is combing his hair in between rounds to make sure he looked good while he beating on Sergey Pavlovich. It was just crazy to watch. He's combing his hair. He got a comb over, beating the crap out of Sergey, man. It was terrible. So I want to see these two dudes because I know that Ciryl Gane is better than what we saw against John Jones. We saw that in his return fight. I just want to see if he can show it again to put himself right back on the doorstep of a championship opportunity, because I do believe that if John Jones doesn't fight against Tom Aspinall, the winner of this fight will get to fight Tom Aspinall. And Ciryl Gane and Tom, they have a history of disliking each other, and I think that just kind of works, right? I think that is why I put that at number 2. And at number 1, I got to see Shavkat and Ian, man. I mean, you know, having undefeated fighters fight each other is unheard of in mixed martial arts. Sport's too hard. That's why what Khabib Nurmagomedov did is so unbelievable. To win 29 fights and not lose one, usually in the beginning, there's a hiccup, Chael. There's a hiccup in the beginning because normally you're not managed as well as you should be in the beginning. They put you in fights you shouldn't be in. When did you lose your first fight? How long in?
In theory, a lot of people said that I lost my first one in 1997. Some people.
See what I'm saying? So, like, you probably fought some dude that you shouldn't have been fighting. He was too good, probably. They didn't manage you the right way. You should have been fighting.
Rematched him in the UFC, a guy named Trevor Prangley. But yes.
You fought Trevor, one of my teammates. Yep. You fought Trevor Prangley in your first fight. Trevor Prangley was an Elite XC champion. Trevor Prangley was a Strikeforce level fighter, UFC fighter. That's too early for a guy like you. Nowadays, these guys have better managers, so they put them in the right fights at the right time, which led to undefeated records. And Shavkat, 19-0, 19 finishes. It does not matter if he's fun outside of the octagon when he can do what he's doing. It's crazy. Ian Gary also showed in the last fight he has the smarts, Chael, to mix it up. Because he saw with MVP he wasn't getting where he needed to get. He got himself a victory by taking him down. But, dude, when Shavkat caught Jeff Neal, I mean, Chael, you holding Jeff Neal like this. He had Jeff Neal like this and submitted a bulldog choke. The same thing you used to do with all your friends that didn't wrestle before when you were a child and you got those skills and you were bullying them because they couldn't do anything about it. He did that to a professional fighter. That's my number 1 fight. Those guys at welterweight make for a very interesting, real dynamic, right, in this weight class because you got these 2 undefeated guys fighting. Bilal Muhammad's now the champion. Leon Edwards just said that he's coming back and he's going to headline in London in March. Jorge Masvidal said he's back fighting in Miami. Dude, this welterweight division right now is on fire. But when you talk about the former champion, Rocky Edwards, who would you like to see him main event again in London?
All right, I'm going to jump on your question, but I must tell you, because I think you just set something down that's the biggest part of the show. When you talked about the winner of the Volkov-Gane fight is likely to be fighting Aspinall, this entire Aspinall and John Jones negotiation, you better negotiate at a rapid pace because you are going to lose major leverage after UFC 310. One of those two guys, you are exactly right. If there's a job out there and you don't want to do it, one of these boys does, and they both deserve it. I think that you really just foreshadowed for us. Now, let me move forward to your question. I just read about Rocky, and it couldn't have been better timing for me because I was thinking to myself, Daniel, man, I haven't heard from Leon in a while. We're moving on with the welterweight division. I mean, anytime a champion loses, he generally gets considered for an immediate rematch. If he's not considered for an immediate rematch, yeah, like we kind of got to know why. He took himself out of that. Didn't think he fought very well. Dana didn't really love the fight, even from Blahal's perspective, and we all just got up and moved on. So what's going to be next for Rocky? Well, now they've given us a date. They've given us a venue. They don't have an opponent, though. And I don't see anybody lining up or asking to fight him. And I got to tell you from this perspective, and most people don't like to work this way. Generally, a fight, it's all about the win. But I think sometimes the loser, you'll know what he can get to. Just for example, I think the loser of Ian Gary Rachmonov draws into Leon. That's what I think. One of them, they'll still have beautiful records. The rankings will support it. You got two guys coming off a loss, two meaningful guys, somebody you could feature. I think the winner of Ian Gary Rachmonov is clearly, barring illness or injury, going to go into a title fight when Blahal is better. But I would like to see the guy that gets the silver medal go across the pond, get matched up with Leon.
I think that I'm trying to find these welterweight rankings real quick. I'll just ask support in the chat. So for me, when the way Leon Edwards fought is why it seems as though people have moved on. I got to kind of say, though, Chael, as a broadcaster, we're in Manchester. It was early, man. It's 5 a.m. by the time these guys are walking to the octagon. It's not good. It's hard. It doesn't matter how long you try to prepare yourself for that. You can't get accustomed to waking up in the middle of the night at 3 a.m. to start preparing yourself to defend your championship. And when I asked him in the octagon, he said, it just wasn't my night. I was tired. He was tired. So it was hard for him to do what he's supposed to do. Take nothing away from Belal, because I thought Belal fought the perfect fight. But the circumstances weren't great for a guy like Leon Edwards. Colby Covington is fighting against Joaquin Buckley. So he's out. That would have been one that, no, but they fought already. But I would love to see them try to do that.
The guy, I believe, who called you a hoe.
Yeah, he did. We squashed that, though. Me and Buckley good. He did call me that, though. A dirty one, too. Oh, dirty hoe. But listen, Chael. Chael.
I like that laugh. I like that laugh. It's funny.
It's like mischievous. Honestly, I'd like to see a guy like Jack Della Maddalena. Boy, if Jack Della. Imagine if you could headline that card with Jack Della Maddalena versus Leon Edwards. Because here's the deal. If Leon Edwards can beat Jack Della, because there are two guys, and then there's Jack Della Maddalena on a short list of guys that we could see fighting for the belt. That's it, right now. Like you said, Rocky has kind of taken a back seat. Sean Brady's ranked number 4, but Belal beat him in like a round and a half. So it's like he's not knocking at the door as easily as Ian Gary and Shavkat, but Jack Della, another undefeated guy. When was the last time we had 3 undefeated guys in the top 5 in one weight class? So I believe that if Leon Edwards needs a guy, I say Jack Della Maddalena. Jack Della versus Leon Edwards, main event. That, though, the only problem with that is that it might make them feel like they're more deserving of a championship opportunity than the winner of the co-main event at UFC 310.
Sure. And I just think you're going to have a hard time. I mean, don't forget, it's a policy. It's not an absolute rule, but the policy in the UFC from the beginning says 2 guys that won their last fight get matched up. 2 guys coming off of losses get matched up. So I just don't know that we'll get Jack in there with him. By the way, whatever happened to this rumor? Jack is supposed to be beating Kamaru Usman, but then all of a sudden that rumor just kind of died away.
Hurt. Jack's hurt.
All right, I'll tell you my aggravate, and I don't know if you can book a guy while he's hurt, but listen to me here. One thing that does frustrate me, DC, we've got a guy in a former champion. Generally, you want to get to a championship, get through a former champion. That'll do it. In his hometown, which means it's likely to be a main event. It is not a pay-per-view, which almost guarantees it's a main event, and nobody's calling him out. That is frustrating to me beyond words. That will aggravate me when a guy doesn't see There's a passenger seat wide open to a main event. You are this close to getting to your childhood dream, and guys aren't asking for the opportunity. I know that they like Leon, and I know they also fear Leon, but there is something about when we got a guy wide open in a main event on the worldwide leader of ESPN that's got no opponent and not one damn 170-pounder speaks up. For me, that's a problem.
You know, Chael, Leon Edwards is a good guy, great fighter, hard matchup for most. Champion, so it's like, I'm fighting a hard guy and not for the belt. That's a little difficult, especially for these young guys who are trying to work their way to a championship fight. Jorge Masvidal is back. You know, he retired in Miami. I think it was 2 years ago or last year. He retired after losing to Gilbert Burns. He comes back. I think it's perfect. He's Mr. Miami. Who would you like to see him fight, Chael? I will give you some names because I believe that it needs to be in that range of ranking, right? I don't know that he comes back and he gets Nick Diaz. I know that would be fun, but I don't know that he comes back and gets a Nick Diaz. I think it should be Luque, Jeff Neal, who works very well in this situation, a striker. Jeff Neal, big-time guy. But for me, Michael Morales or Carlos Prates. Those 11 to 14 is where I think Masvidal should fall. One of those guys for his return fight. Who would you like to see him fight?
Well, listen, let's be real fair about it. We might have answered our question. If Masvidal's coming back, it's for fun. Some guys deserve one last fight. He got screwed over in a boxing deal, and if you want to do, I mean, Masvidal's done, he's done some good deeds over the years, but to make believe, Daniel, I'm being nice here because I don't know what else to do. If Masvidal has a signed contract, you will have to color me surprised. Now, I did actually look into this, and I went to people in the know, and they say he's got a signed contract. Wow. They're reluctant to bring back Nate Diaz purely because of age. They let Damian Maia go, Alistair Overeem, just for example, to bring a guy back who is popular. And he's also lost his last 4 fights, and 5 if you want to count boxing. Not for nothing, he's got one match over here that makes any level of sense, and it's a good old-fashioned grudge match, and it's against Leon, who we know doesn't have an opponent. They got the backyard scuffle. There's only one thing for anybody to see. Now, if this is just a straight-up favor, he's likely to not get airtime. He's likely to be an undercard, but the amount of money that Masvidal brings in, and if you are, in fact, doing it in Miami, I believe we're being trolled. But if this information is in fact true, he will not be getting an opponent that is favorable by him because he does not matter. He does not matter within the rankings. He doesn't matter within what's going to happen tomorrow. He needs some cash. Somebody said yes. But the trade-off for the cash and the opportunity is we're going to shine up some young kid's wheels.
Yep.
So you are likely to end up with somebody in that 11 to 14. And I'm not giving Masvidal a hard time, but the night that he retired, he didn't retire because he wanted to be done. He retired because he could do the math. That was 4 in a row. They're going to cut me. Let me get in front of this thing. And in large part, he did. He's claiming behind the scenes that he's patched that boat back up. I tried to receive confirmation that he's even back in the testing pool. I could not get that confirmation, and that is supposed to be public. I don't buy this information. I will tell you in fairness, I would like to see Jorge Masvidal back, but making believe that he's coming back for something that's going to be a game of checkers. Not only did George retire, Daniel, in the meantime, the guys that beat him have all retired. I mean, if those guys aren't going to be coming back in, what are we doing here? In fairness, what are we doing?
I think the most important thing you said in that whole deal, Chael, is you're coming back to polish somebody up. That's really all you hear. If you're going to come back, you'll get the big paycheck, and you might get an opportunity to make a great moment. But you're going to have to make that moment while risking getting beat up by some young dude that's hungry. That's why I say Prates. That's why I say Prates. Prates just beat Neil Magny. It's literally just a continuation of the path that he's on. You beat Magny, you beat a Masvidal, you're in the top 15 now, then you start to work your way towards the bigger and badder fish in the sea. I think it has to be that guy. But yes, it's going to be to come, give somebody some love. Hey, it's just like WWE, Chael. The old champion goes out on his back by getting pinned. George is going to have to come and do business for somebody else. Or he could knock somebody else out, and then you get the idea that he's got more in the gas tank than he does, and then he'll get another fight. But, yeah, I don't
sure,
know
it's possible. Those things are possible, but I'm just suggesting for you, if we're not doing that extension for Nate Diaz, and look, George is very popular. He's not as popular as Nate Diaz. It's just one of these. It's one of these rare situations where I'm very light on the idea in here. Let me also cover 2 announcements that we made. We covered an announcement that Leon is going to be fighting in a main event, opponent to be determined. We got that information in a press release from the UFC. We covered that Jorge Masvidal is returning and it's going to be in Miami with an opponent to be determined, and we got that information from Jorge Masvidal. So, all right, I mean, it's the same guy that told us he's going to be fighting Conor McGregor. It's the same guy that told us he was going to be boxing Jake Paul. It's the same guy. It's one of these things. It's very tough to believe this information, but I do think he can manifest it, and I do think if he comes out with a lie, which is what he's done in this case, but a lie told loud enough and a lie told enough at times can become a truth. It's a good, solid play. It's one I've done in my career, but I don't know if he's good enough to do it. I don't think that the city is a hook enough. I think he'd have been better to name an opponent.
I think Leon Edwards, yes. And Leon Edwards would jump on, trust me, Leon Edwards would jump on that faster than you could ever imagine. Because in theory, it's not as difficult to fight as Jack Della Maddalena, Sean Brady. Sean Brady, which would be a nightmare matchup because he's going to try to wrestle him the whole time. But like Jorge Masvidal, bigger name, less risk. Leon Edwards would say, absolutely. Sign me up. Let me deal with the issue that him and I had to try to make it work. I just don't know that that they're going to do that. I think these guys are going to fight opposite each other. They're going to fight different guys when they really should clearly be fighting each other. Chael, you got a question for me?
Do I have a question for you? No, I didn't. I was wondering my own question. What is there? Is there something somewhere I'm supposed to ask? Look, ask Daniel a question. Ask him about Dorito pie. No, I don't have a question.
Oh, you don't? Okay, so you're good. Because I just saw, before you wrap, Chael has a question for you.
I'm sorry. You know what? I know there's a box and we're supposed to see those things. You've always steered the ship on that. I pretend I read them, but you actually, if they're actually leaning on me. Yeah, wait a minute. I got a text. I do have a question for you. All right. Yeah, corporate air came through. Hey, Chael, that's me. Ask DC. That stands for Daniel Cormier. That's so you should Jim Miller, a fighter. You know who Jim Miller is?
I do. I know exactly.
That stands for Hall of Fame. Okay, no, I got it. Chael, me, ask Daniel, you should Jim Miller be in the Hall of Fame?
I'm not doing this again, man. Hey, bro, they keep setting me up. They set me up. They have made the Chael. They have set me up on multiple occasions about Jim Miller in the Hall of Fame because I had this stance that I thought was a very fair stance that said, I don't believe that time served should get you into the Hall of Fame. Okay. Not in the same wing with Anderson Silva, George St. Pierre, and all these guys. There is a place in the Hall of Fame for Jim Miller. I just don't know if that
sounds like a yes. Part of that sounds like a yes. There's a place in the Hall of Fame for Jim Miller. That sounds like a yes.
I don't know if that place is in the same wing as John Jones is going to be, and myself, and George St. Pierre, and Khabib. I think there's a different place in the Hall of Fame for Jim Miller just because of time served inside the octagon. That's my thought. Me and Ryan did this. We went into a whole thing with this guy that plays for the Chargers or the Rams. He was a lineman that played for 20 years, but then he was not going into the Hall of Fame because he didn't win the Super Bowl and all these other things. I just don't want to pick on Jim Miller anymore.
Of course.
Just don't
of course. Well, I'm merely regurgitating back to you what you just said. The final analysis is yes, you do think there's a place for him in the Hall of Fame. We can have a discussion about wings. Can I tell you something?
Yeah.
Daryl Christian, does that ring a bell to you, that name?
I do know Daryl.
Okay. Coach Daryl now, but you know, I thought at one point, and I was even telling people, this was about 2004, that Daryl was going to be the one that was going to beat George St. Pierre. Daryl was an undefeated boxer and is a hard worker, and he won the U.S. Open a couple times, lived at the training center. C'est la vie, when Daryl retires, he tells me, and he never thought about this while he was competing. It's when he retired, he told me, Chael, I used to just look at titles, and I used to just look at victories and championships, but now that I'm done, the guys that I admire are the guys that found a way to extend their career. And I never heard those terms before, extend your career. And I never thought about that as a feather in a cap. I only thought, a longer career is more losses for some guys. I don't really get what the good news is, but Daryl was explaining to me that lifestyle and staying healthy and be able to be part of something, having the mindset, getting it right that many times, not missing weight, not missing flights, not having excuses, making that walk on time every time. That in and of itself is a rarity. And the Hall of Fame is reserved for rarities. Somebody that had a rare career, a rare skill, and then you can fill in the blank. And I do think that Jim Miller's ability to extend his career, and let's not act like he hasn't. People love to say he wasn't the world champion, and that's
he won fights. He won a lot of fights. He's beaten world champions.
He's beaten guys. He's finished guys that went on to be world champions.
Finished Cowboy Cerrone, who's in the Hall of Fame and fought for a world title to retire Cowboy.
He finished Charles Oliveira, who will be in the Hall of Fame. Not for nothing, there is a spot for Jim Miller.
Well, you're making a very compelling argument that I never thought about. Jim Miller's going to fight 50 times in the UFC before he retires. He just submitted somebody a couple weeks ago. So the guy is a miracle of the world and a wonder that we should all appreciate. But you ain't changing my stance. So it is what it is. I'm standing on it. Guys, that's another episode of Good Guy, Bad Guy.
What are you talking about? That's another. We just got here.
We're done. We're done.
Here's your hat. What's your hurry?
I pulled the plug. I got to get back to Thanksgiving.
Did I screw corporate air? Am I going to get called into a meeting for this?
No, you're done.
I should have said Air told me to ask this. Right? I should have just asked the question.
No, you're fine. You're fine because
I outed Air.
She knew what she was doing.
Is Air short for something? That's a very badass name. Is that short for like Aerolina?
Dude, that's her name. As I know,
Aerodynus.
Her whole name is the craziest name. Her last name after her first name is the crazy. I don't think we can give it on the show.
Aerolopolopicus.
But
are you sure it's just Air?
I think so. That's what I know. Dude, you make me question everything. You can literally make me question everything. You'd be a very good politician. Guys, get us wherever you get your podcasts. ESPN2, ESPN Plus. For the bad guy, Chael, Sonnen, I'm Daniel Cormier. Until next time, peace.